Hello, welcome to Club IDIC. Today, we will be watching Hard Time from Star Trek Deep Space Nine and discussing life in and after captivity. Please enjoy this meeting. Hello, how are you doing?
Okay,
What's the matter?
nothing.
Nothing?
I was sick all day yesterday though, so
Oh no, well, good to see you.
is it just us
For
right
now, but it is early.
Well, the reason I asked is, I was just gonna ask if it was all right for me to mention the surprise.
Yeah, I mean, if you
Okay.
wanted to wait till a few more people showed up, I hope more people show
Well,
up.
I was gonna wait.
It's
I hope.
fine. It's fine. This is not a dictatorship. I only got mad last week because people made
Well,
others
no,
feel unsafe. Like, I don't put up with other people insulting other people. That is not okay.
yeah, I know. I was so excited though. So what happened was, Tammy was on one of the local buy, sell, and trade pages selling these cardinal stickers. And I love cardinals. I collected cardinals. I lost my collection, but I love cardinals. It was my daddy's favorite bird. Well, he loved all songbirds, but it was daddy's favorite bird. And he had this um, cardinal ornament that he got from my mom that sang Love Me Tender for their anniversary, like their first or second anniversary when, I was not even there yet. So anyway, we grew up and we loved the Cardinals, and Daddy made sure that he put out special food just for the Cardinals. So I saw the stickers and I was like, okay, I have to have these. So I ordered some. And after I ordered it, you know how it gives information about the seller? It said that she made custom stickers. So I was like, okay, I gotta at least ask. Because the worst case scenario, she says no, she can't do it, right? So I asked her and she's like, well, do you have a picture? Well, I didn't because, I just invented it in my head. So I like traced out my hand like this and I wrote what I wanted it to say on there, and she made the design.
Oh,
So,
that's so sweet of you.
but then we started talking, and I was like, well, it's because she didn't know what it stood for. She's like, well, she asked if she could, ask what it meant. So I told her, and I was like, we have a group that is called Club IDIC on Facebook. I said, we actually meet, we'll watch an episode and discuss it. So I sent her a link to the Facebook page and she pulled it up. And when she saw the cover photo, she got so excited because she's like, that describes me.
Oh
So,
yeah, the quote. I don't know what I was feeling at the time, but I'm glad people like it.
hey, she loved it. So she's like, my son is going to like it too. I was like, hey, the more the merrier. So, yeah. So she joined, I saw. So that's good.
That's really
And
good.
she is going to try to make it. She had to quit her job, so she's doing the stickers to kind of supplement her husband's income right now. So she's got a big order. So if she gets it finished, she's gonna join us.
Well, that's good. That's
I hope
really
she
nice.
does. I'm so excited because I'll get to like actually kind of sort of meet her.
It's
So
really nice that people are liking the essay and everything, and it'll be nice to share all the following essays.
well, I am just, you know, I'm excited about that. So
Yeah, that's very nice that you're networking. That's lovely. See, you're doing so much good, even from your bed, and you never thought you would. So there you go.
hey, you know, it makes me happy, and I am so excited because I can't wait till people get their stickers.
That's great. And you know, the logo that I designed, and people designed other logos, but they looked too much like Star Trek, and I was worried that CBS would get pissed at us. And I was like, this is not a good idea because CBS might yell at us for copyright things because they're so picky about it. And
Well,
they got pissed at me and left.
this is
No,
not
I mean, like
copyrighted.
they had like combat
Um,
type little button things, like the cars things, and it's like that's a little too similar. You might want to tone that. And they didn't listen to me, and they got pissed and left the club.
What you're just looking out for them. I mean, it is.
Yeah,
I mean, it is a real possibility. That's all.
and like mine is sort of like I made it on the stair step thing. I was thinking like a stairway to heaven, stairway to safety type thing that I made on Word.
See, I looked at the page and I didn't see anything, so I was like, well, this is like universal,
Yeah,
and it's easily recognizable.
yeah,
I mean, 90% of
yeah.
people see this and their mind goes to Star Trek.
Well, no, it's a little thing that the first thing you see when you open the videos, it introduces the episodes. That's the little thing I'm talking about.
Oh,
That's what I
gotcha.
designed in Word.
Okay, see, that's how much I pay attention. But anyway, I was hoping you would like it.
I do like it. It's very nice. I think Leonard Nimoy actually came up with that because he's Jewish, right?
It is the Aaronic blessing.
And he wanted
And
to implement some sort of Jewish hand symbol, right?
he wanted something unique, and because he's Jewish, he knew that this would be an okay thing to use. You know what I mean? So he talks about it in his biography.
Which is what I Am Spock, which is on my shelf. I have too many books.
You know, he wrote a book called I Am Not Spock.
Read it.
I haven't. I want to.
I've got too many books. I should no, you know what? I can't. I should sell books, but I
Yeah, I lost all of mine.
can't.
And the sad thing is, like, the Star Trek books that I had, my intention was to pass them on to people who hadn't read them. But, you know, there's
That
nothing
sucks.
I can do about that. And dwelling on it doesn't help because it doesn't bring anything back. So, you know.
Well, when you can, you should go to a thrift store because you never know what you can find in Star Trek books. There's always Star Trek books.
Oh, I got most of mine from thriftbooks.com. At least my Star Trek books. Like, I had a huge collection of Grace Livingston Hale books that did not come from there, but I still have some books that are at my mom's house. If I can ever get them back from her.
Focus on getting better, and then you might be able to.
Well, I am. And then I got to find a place to live. So,
You
know,
will.
we're working on that. So, but I'm trying to stay optimistic. I mean,
You'll get better. You'll get better. This is not going to beat
it
you.
doesn't help to like focus on the negatives.
No,
So,
it doesn't. But you're gonna beat it.
so
You
I'm
are.
determined.
Are you still doing walks? You're gonna beat it.
Yes. on the weekends, physical therapy is not always here. Sometimes they are. So they haven't come in today. So I just do what I can, on my own.
Yeah, but that's something. You're still doing it. You're still pulling yourself out of the bed and not
Well,
like
yeah.
letting this hard time just dominate you.
Hey, you got to.
Right. You got to, right?
Because otherwise, you get stuck in that spot and you get more and more depressed because you don't come out of that without, you have to, something has to start the ball rolling. And so, you know, but
But you're doing it. You're amazing.
I'm working on it. See, I got.
Oh, yes. If Leonard were alive today, he'd be very proud of you for that.
I would have loved to meet him and say the Aaronic blessing in Hebrew just to blow his mind, but
Oh, well, too bad Adam
Oh, well.
doesn't drop in here. He's very nice. I've met him.
I've heard that he's like really, really nice. Are him and Terry still married?
I've not met them together, but I think I've got a picture with me and Adam together because Adam was in Vulcan a few years ago. And
That would be so cool. But I don't ever like, Terry will post things, but she like never speaks about her family. So I'm like, are they married still?
I don't know.
I mean, I hope so. I hope that they found true happiness together.
I
But
don't know.
I love her post. She is so fun. Like she posts silly things and I love that. I loved her character. I wish, part of me wishes that we had gotten to just keep her through the whole 7th season, but with changing, it was rough because we didn't have Esri long enough to like really develop her.
Yeah, but Nicole's so nice too. I met Nicole.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any. I mean, I've heard supposed fans be like, she'll never really live up to Dax and all of that. But I think criticizing her is wrong because I think one, she did a great job.
But we can't be the same throughout our lives. Things happen throughout our lives and we
Exactly.
metamorphosize and we can't always be the same as our previous self. And that's kind of what happens in this. Like O'Brien goes through something that leaves him to be unable to be like his previous self. Like once you go to prison or have a hard time, like an abusive situation or an illness or something, you are no longer capable of being your previous self. You're someone else.
I like when, they're sitting down to dinner the first night he's back on the station and he's stockpiling his food in a napkin. And he tells Keiko the reason.
It's for later.
And you can see her heart just breaks for him in the realization of what he really went through. Because, Julian warned her, but, you think how many moments probably happened in the time after where she saw a glimpse of what he went through. And didn't he end up sleeping on the floor?
He did. Like,
So
It's like when something big happens in your life, you're no longer the same person as you were before that big thing happened. As much as you try, you can't be that previous self.
I posted a quote. It was Sarah speaking to Spock.
Now, where'd you post it, in the group or on your?
On my I need to go find it and post it in the group. But it says people are always worried about going back in time and making a small change that has a huge impact on the future. But they never worry about what they're doing now, making a change in the future. And I'm paraphrasing that, but that's true. I mean, we're forming the future now. Everything that we do now is changing the way the future is going to be. Those books where you choose an ending, and whatever you choose, it changes the ending of the story. And we're living that, but we don't think about that. We don't think, if I make choice A, these are the things that's going to happen. We think in the moment, and I do think to a point. I mean, we can't dwell on the future or past, but I think we should think a little bit more about the effect that we're having on the future. So I don't know. I just really liked it. So
That's true. I mean, we can't control everything that happens. We can't control what happens to us, because that involves controlling others' choices, and we can't control what others choose to do about us or to do about their own circumstances. But we can control how we deal with our own circumstances, or how we deal with what happens to us, or how others treat us. I mean, we can respond in a way that doesn't involve causing more harm.
well, I
I know that sounds so weird, but I'm weird. So what?
okay. So the day before yesterday, one of my mom's cousins, and he's older than her, so he's like mid-70s. So he's older. But he's a retired pastor. He studies theology still. I mean, he still studies every day. So he posted a quote out of this book that he's reading, and I responded, and we kind of were talking about the prosperity gospel. I don't know if you're familiar with
Never
that.
heard of it.
Okay, so the prosperity gospel, it's kind of like Joel Osteen, around here we like to call them the blab it and grab it, name it and claim it group, because they have the belief that when they speak something, it's going to come true. And they preach things like God wants you to have your best life now. And the only reason that you're not wealthy is because you're not asking for it, that kind of stuff. You would be healthy, you would be wealthy if only you asked. If you ask, you'll get it. Which is not what the Bible says at all. So I pointed that out, that was an unbiblical thing. And this friend of his, man, he jumped my crap, and he just but he's been trying all day yesterday, all day today. He's been trying to suck me into that argument, and I'm like, nope, dude, not gonna argue with you. No, not. It's pointless, because arguing with somebody, I mean, there's a difference between a discussion. We can disagree on something, and we can still have a civil discussion. We do it all the time. You know, and we may do that today. You know, we may see things very differently in the way that we interpret what we see in the episode, in the way that we react, because we react based on our life experiences. And so the fact that I have had experiences with depression and suicidal thought may alter the way that I think, as opposed to somebody who may not have had that
Mhm.
experience. Or maybe somebody has, maybe somebody's even attempted to harm themselves. They're going to react to that much differently as well. And you know, we all will react differently because we're different people with different experiences. That's what makes this discussion so amazing, is that we can hear, if we're willing to hear what the other people have to say, and hear it, like really actually hear it, not just be, okay, I'm waiting for them to stop talking so I can talk, you know. um but this guy wants to fight, and I'm not interested in doing that. So but he keeps trying. He keeps like posting little things trying to, and tagging me in them. Nope. No, I'm not. No. I think I'll pass. The invitation's there, but I think I'll pass on that one.
You've got the patience of Job, in other words. You're just gently thinking, oh,
No, no, I don't. But I'm learning. I'm trying to.
you give yourself too little credit, and I'm going to call you on it, and you're going to
I
take it
I
to say
I
thank
have
you.
gotten much better. I mean, I would be far more tempted to take that invitation on that argument if it was on my Facebook wall and not on Pat's. But it is on somebody else's Facebook wall. I don't want to, because I have so many scriptures I could just,
Yeah.
but I don't want to do that on Pat's page. So
Hmm.
I will
Yeah.
I will forego that. But there is a part of me that really wants to give him every
Well,
verse that I have that proves that he is wrong.
well, you know, isn't that called Bible bashing?
Well, yeah, I mean,
I don't think that ever ends well, because that really just ends terribly for both parties, doesn't it?
it's Bible bashing when you are trying to just prove somebody wrong for the sake of it. I am worried because on a truly being worried about somebody level, the prosperity gospel teaches something, because it's so unbiblical. A lot of people that I personally know that have been involved in it truly believe that they're going to heaven without doing the one thing the Bible says is how to get to heaven. So to me, that's a salvation point, and that is one thing I will argue about.
Well,
Most of the time, I will argue that, because it is a point of salvation. And I shouldn't say argue, because I don't really want to argue about it. I just want to say, hey, check out these scriptures and then let me know what you think, because I'm not going to change their mind on my own. They're only going to change their mind if they decide, hey, you know, this makes sense. Maybe I should look into this. So, but for the most part, you can't change somebody's mind by arguing.
that's true.
So, I hope some people show up.
I hope so too, but you know, I think we can have a decent discussion.
Yeah.
And you
And
know, and I
maybe,
actually, with discussion, I actually started reflecting on this a while back, which I don't usually do. I've been reflecting a lot lately, basically just because of essays I've written and such. and you mentioned the essays basically. I got back to thinking about my past and stuff, and like my dad died when I was like nearly 27. And once he died, it got me a while to realize this, but it was a very, like the way he was and the way he created the home life to be, it was a very prison-like environment. And he wasn't there all the time, but it still felt like prison. Because he was very controlling, even when he wasn't around. We were constructed to behave a specific way, or else he would find out about it, get very, very angry, very, very violent, very, very drunk. And he would try to get physical, but he was too drunk to actually get very far with being physical.
That's sad.
He did a little bit of physical stuff, but not much, fortunately. But it was like, it took me years to just actually trust myself and love myself after the fact, and actually be kind to myself. I'm still working on that. And it's like, and I've mentioned this in the essays, it's actually taken me a while to reconcile the fact with myself that it's okay to be different. And I'm really still working on that. And
it's a process, but a quote that I have seen over and over: it's far easier to raise emotionally healthy children than it is to repair emotionally damaged adults. And I've tried my best to keep that in mind in raising my children. It's not always easy.
it's true.
I mean, some things are just out of your control anyway, period.
That's
But
something I had to
yeah,
learn. Like I went to therapy like before and after he was dying. And I basically, I was made to feel as if his drinking was my fault, and as if I were a freak and a monster, quoted from Julian, basically. And basically, I thought to myself, am I that much of a freak and a monster that he has to do this? If I were normal, would he not do this? And
and
basically,
the
I wrote
answer
an
is, of course
essay a few
not.
years ago, a religious essay called Emptying My Backpack of Inappropriate Guilt. It's a religious essay, and I can share it with you after.
Yeah, definitely.
And I just had to come to terms with, and this counselor like told me, this is not your fault. Get this crap out of your backpack. He doesn't drink because of you. And I had to come to terms with this. He makes his own choices and I have to make mine. I don't need to take responsibility for his bad behavior because it's not my responsibility. My behavior is my responsibility.
Exactly. And at no point in your life was it ever your responsibility. A lot of times, and kids do that. Like all kids do this. They internalize that. And if at any point something is said, even if it's not in so many words, if anything is said that could possibly hint towards that, then that is what is embedded in their brains. And it's a lot. My uncle was a very, I say bad alcoholic, but when he was drunk, people who knew him didn't know he was drunk. He would get drunk, he would get funny, he would tell jokes, he would want to play with the nieces and nephews, card games, board games, whatever. And he only did that when he was drunk. So a lot of people that didn't really know him would think that he was not drunk when he was, and that he was sober when he was drunk.
Yeah.
But that's, I mean, until you get close enough to smell him, but but he drank for two reasons, and the biggest one was pain. He had rheumatoid arthritis from the time he was 12, And Grandpa never had good insurance. Medicaid wasn't as big a thing back then, so he had no insurance. So his way of dealing with the pain was to stay drunk, um, which is a shame because he ended up dying young. And you know, he could have done so much with his life if he wasn't constantly drunk, But,
Well, it's
people
sad.
do make their own decisions. And the thing is, like, his friends would go buy him beer. They wouldn't pay for medications that would have actually helped him, but they would buy beer and go sit with him and drink. So that's what they did
Well,
all the
it's sad.
time.
It's like inappropriate guilt, right? He's guilty over something beyond his control, just like Miles was. He was angry about these memories and this trauma beyond his control to the point where he nearly took his own life. He was acting out because of this trauma. He didn't know how to handle it. He felt there was nothing that could help him. And everybody was just really, they didn't know what to do. And at the end, Julian was like, "Oh, that's not your fault. You're having trauma."
I think Julian did a great job with him. I have not watched it in a while,
So
and I have rewatched the series so many times, and there's so many episodes that I have practically memorized. But this one I usually skip because it is so difficult emotionally to watch it because there are so many so realistic things going on with him and with that trauma and with the relationship with him and his daughter. I mean, Molly's what, 5, 6 years old in this,
I think so.
roughly
Are
that.
you going to be okay watching it?
Yeah, yeah, I will. I normally skip it. Just well, there's several that I skip. I've lost the title right now, but when Cisco and O'Brien are in a shuttlecraft and they end up on this planet where they've got the device that keeps the technology from working.
Oh, the punishment
um,
box episode.
the punishment box. I can't stand it. I want to reach through the screen and grab that woman by her neck. I want to beat her. I do.
Yeah,
Like, I don't feel that kind of violence usually, but I want to. She let people die because she had this idea that she wanted to implement. She didn't give anybody a choice. It's not like she gathered up a group of people who were like-minded and said, let's go do this. And that it was a choice for her. She did this. She forced them into the situation, but she let people die rather than get help that could have come with a flip of a switch. Like, it was really that easy. And she didn't give a choice. She made that decision. And that, to me, that's playing God. And she didn't give him the part that really gets me, in addition to torturing Cisco, because he's my favorite captain. Um, but she didn't give them the choice because I'm sure she could have found people who agreed with her ideology, and she could have created her planet that she wanted. She could have done that without forcing people into it against their will. That's just my viewpoint on it, but I feel like she forced the issue, and I felt like that was wrong. But that punishment box, that took it to a sadistic level. And I just, man. So I skipped that one. There's a few that I skipped.
Yeah, the sad thing about trauma and everything, it's always forced on people and they have to live with it, even if the people who force it upon others don't have to live with guilt or anything else. It's the saddest thing in the world. Tormentors don't often have guilt for what they do, but those they torment have to live with everything.
Exactly. And that's the thing, is like, the person who does force that trauma on someone else, they go about their lives just like nothing ever happened. And what's really bad is when the victims have to go along. You know, there are cultures, even in the United States, but there are cultures where it is perfectly acceptable for a dad or a brother to rape a sister because she did something that they felt like was wrong. And then she's forced to live in close proximity under the same roof as the person who did that and pretend like nothing happened. And I'm thinking of a particular event, and that kind of, but it's daily, it's every hour, it's every moment. There's no getting away from it. And the trauma itself was bad enough, but then to relive it on a very regular basis with the knowledge that it could happen again and nothing's going to happen. Um Man, I just can't wrap my brain around that.
It's a hard thing to, deal with. And I wish things could be done, but a lot of people turn a blind eye because it doesn't directly affect them. But what if it did? What if the world suddenly decides, oh,
You know,
let's
um
let's go back to a system that's more archaic?
it's heading that way.
Oh, it
You
is.
can notice it's definitely heading that way. But I think we need to come to the understanding that we need to defend people who are outside of our group, who are not like us, because once they've destroyed all of the other groups, they're going to come for us too.
And they came for me, the
And
poem.
the poem, exactly, and we just had Holocaust Remembrance Day, and it always makes me think about that, because if we don't say anything, it doesn't go away by not saying anything. What's happening in the Ukraine right now, it's not going to go away. It's not just going to go away. I have a friend who, she has people pulling Jews out of Ukraine, and she's bringing them to Israel. She's helping them with food and clothes and shelter and everything. And she's only one person. We need more people to be willing to stand up and help people who need it, because at some point you're going to need the help.
Yeah, but eventually Russia's going to run out of space to invade in Ukraine. Where are they going to go next? Over the ocean?
They could. They could.
Or is there an act, like, who else is fighting to defend Ukraine? There's no fight. Everybody's just standing still and watching it. This needs to
Hey, the
stop.
IDF is helping. The IDF is helping. So I don't know about American troops because they don't talk about it, which, honestly, I don't want them to talk about it. I just want them to do it.
I'm not
Because
sure what sanctions are doing, but they're not doing really enough to stop anything.
they are not doing enough. Whatever's happening is not enough, because we can see that, with the internet, with the videos that are coming out of the Ukraine. A friend of mine has quite a bit of family in the Ukraine, some of whom were able to get across the borders, some who have not. And there's some that are still, what is this, like, day 76, something, that they have been in a subway, and they have to send people out to try to scrounge for food or whatever. And be caught on the street. And like their apartment complex that they were living in is literally across the street from the subway that they are underground in right now. And they have watched it be bombed. And I can't imagine what that feels like, to literally watch your home be bombed right in front of you. And I'm sure that they can feel, I mean, the aftershock and everything. I'm sure. Um, it's it's a lot, but and there's a lot of trauma happening there too. There are parents who are letting their minor children cross the border alone, in the hopes that somebody takes mercy on them when they get over the border. And there are people at the border who are helping with those kids. But man, to think that that's your only option to keep your kids alive is to separate from them and let them go off by themselves, and young children, um and send your kids into the mercy of a complete and total stranger. That has got to be, for everybody, parents and the kids, it's got to be a very traumatic thing. And
I mean, the lack of care in the world for all the trauma going on in the world, it's devastating. And
you don't have to look far. I mean, you really don't have to look far at all. I mean, on this hallway of this hospital, there's a gentleman who has some sort of dementia, and we lost power during a thunderstorm, and he was terrified. He was absolutely terrified. You could hear it in his voice. He was absolutely terrified, screaming for the nurse, which he does even when the power's not out. But you can hear it, the pain in his voice, when he forgets where he's at and yells for the nurse, yells for help. Sometimes he forgets he's in the hospital and it's a nurse that he's calling for, and just yells for help. And where I was before I got transferred, there was a guy who had dementia that he literally thought all of these people were in his house. So he thought his space was being invaded constantly. I mean, you really don't have to look very far to find somebody who's hurting in some way. Um, there was a woman posting on one of the buy, sell, and trade pages. She cannot find the very specific formula that her child needs. And that's tough, you know. Somebody finally said, that they have it in Canada and you can get it shipped over here. So I'm hoping that the person who was in Canada telling her that it was available was able to help her get that. But even something as simple as feeding your child, I mean, and that's only going to get worse. Food shortages are coming, and people are going to get more desperate, and it's sad because,
And
like I
people
said,
are too busy fighting about politics and other things instead of working together and sharing global resources to make sure everybody gets fed and clothed and housed and psychological and medical help.
but you think about the sheer amount of food waste that happens in the United States while other people have nothing. I
Oh,
mean,
that's true. Everybody wastes
this
everything.
this has been an ongoing thing. I realize it's nothing new, but with more and more shortages coming, we as a nation, we as individual people really need to do better, because I personally know managers who at restaurants where they have to get rid of the food at the end of the day will pour bleach on it to make sure that homeless people can't go. They made us throw away stuff when I worked at the school, and we always got a clean trash bag, put the food in it, and put it not inside the trash can, but beside it, because we knew people who would come and take it from there. And I mean, we wanted it to be clean and let them have it.
Mhm.
But, I can't believe people would do that. Like, intentionally poison it, pour bleach on it, just to keep some homeless person from being able to have it.
That's sad.
Sorry, I was chasing away a spider.
It's okay. And I mean, people just, people really need to watch more Trek, and this episode especially, they can watch. And I don't know if you remember how Miles and his cellmate saved food. You can see the trauma that it is just to, ration food just because you don't think there's going to be enough. You wonder when your next meal is going to be. And you think about, like, I don't know if I've mentioned this, but I grew up poor, and sometimes because of my dad's drinking, we had to use social services and church charities to get food, and because we didn't know where our next meal was going to come from. And so we had to use food banks and church food banks. And I actually served my Mormon mission there. I don't know if you knew that. At a church food bank for a year, and I helped people get their groceries when they didn't have any, and they were so grateful. And
it's a lifesaver, because I've had to I've had to use food banks before, and you know, it's so wonderful that there are people who do care and that do reach out and help people. Um,
Like
but
I was at a church building once, like taking a class, and this homeless person came in, and I had bought some groceries once. I had just bought some groceries for myself, and I ended up giving him some bread and some other groceries, and he was so grateful.
I remember I got off work. I had worked a 12-hour, well, no, not quite a 12-hour, but almost 12-hour shift. I was tired. I was hungry and I was ready to get home. And I called home, and of course, my husband at the time had not done anything, had not fed the kids. Everybody was hungry. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to stop by Wendy's and get some food. So I go to turn into Wendy's, and literally right across the street from Wendy's, standing in the rain, is this older guy. I say older, but he's probably mid 50s. At my age, I shouldn't call him older, but this was years ago. And so I see him standing out there in the rain, holding a sign, "Will work for food." So I rolled my window down. I was like, "Meet me in the restaurant." So I went in and I bought him some food. He didn't ask for much, just he's like, "Just a burger, that's it. I can have a glass of water." I was like, "No, get a meal," because obviously he needed it. I was like, you know, unfortunately that was before Wendy's started serving coffee, so he couldn't have something hot to drink because it was raining. He was standing in the rain. It was cold.
Mhm.
But, having the meal, you know, as long as he was eating his meal, he could stay in a restaurant out of the rain, and I was like, okay, so tomorrow, because my job was like literally 2 doors down, I was like, come to my job 7 o'clock in the morning. If you really want to work, my boss will give you something to do for the day. I can't guarantee it will be more than one day, but you can leave with a little bit of money. And I know he'll give you something to do. And I knew he'd been talking about getting the windows washed and cleaning up the parking lot. So I knew he would do that. And so, I I left him, and then I went through the drive-through. After I did that, I went through the drive-through and got food and went back home to my family, and he showed up. It was there when I got there at 7. He was already there. He was ready to work, man. And he ended up getting a full-time job working there. The owner doctor that owned the practice also owned a apartment complex. And so he hired him on to be the handyman for there and a couple of other businesses that he owned. And in exchange, he got an apartment there. That was part of his pay, was the apartment there. So he ended up getting a place to live instead of just a burger, which was the greatest. I mean, I just love that so much. I mean, and I didn't do all of that. I just gave him a burger, got him out of the rain for a few minutes. But because of those other people in my life that I was able to put him in contact with, it changed his life for real, because, he's got an apartment there and he's got a job there. And he does great. I mean, he works hard, and I think that more people should be willing to look for those opportunities,
Yeah.
because I could have passed him by. I could have just gotten him the burger. But because he showed up and worked, I mean, because if he hadn't worked, then they wouldn't have kept hiring him. They wouldn't have turned that into a full-time job. They wouldn't have offered him the place to live if he hadn't gotten there. And I mean, when I say he worked, I mean, he worked. He cleaned that huge parking lot so fast for being one person, and he did such a fantastic job, and took him a bottle of water and stuff, and it's amazing how, if you're willing to put forth a little bit of effort, then because he had to work too. None of that would have worked out for him if he hadn't done his part.
Yeah. Like a helping hand, that makes me think of,
Exactly.
I don't know if I've mentioned John Billingsley before, like in the board president he is of the Hollywood Food Coalition. Like, I think the Hollywood Food Coalition like gives meals and helping hands up to those in need in Los Angeles.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't pay much attention to the Hollywood crowd, so
Oh, they most recently did this Trek Talks thing. I don't know if you paid attention to that. It was an online telethon event involving Star Trek actors. It was really nice. And pre-pandemic, I also personally volunteered at my local homeless mission. I worked in the People in Need Bank giving clothes and things, and it was so important to me to do that, because I'd always wanted to do that. And I wanted to understand a little bit more about my dad, why he was the way he was. And I still don't understand why, but I learned compassion. I guess for people
I
like
think
him.
that's something that will always be a mystery. But I have found that at the times when I was the most depressed in my life, that if I helped somebody else, I felt better.
Yeah.
And so I do think that is something that we should look at, is pulling yourself up by helping other people.
Yeah. And pulling up. Yeah.
I was just gonna say that I think that one of the reasons that O'Brien maybe didn't show so much of the post-traumatic stress, he did throw himself into doing for other people, into keeping the station running, into helping people with anything that they needed help with. So he did really throw himself into his work.
Yeah, but that's not even a healthy thing, because he got obsessed with it well, actually, you know what? You haven't seen it in a while, so we shouldn't really talk about that until you refresh yourself.
Yeah.
And with that said, we should really get to watching Hard Time.
Okay. I am good with that.
And then we can continue this because I'd love to go on a rant about it. I could talk about it for hours, but we should really refresh ourselves with the episode, shouldn't we?
All right. Well, I will. I've got it open and ready to hit play. So
Because we could talk about it for hours reasonably, but we should watch it really because it's been an hour and I don't think anybody else is coming.
yeah,
And I'm sorry for that.
me too. I was really excited. I really.
So was I.
But
But we can't control the choices and behavior of others.
that's true. They're just gonna have to miss out and watch it later.
Yes, exactly. We can have fun with just the two of us and our thoughts.
So Anthony and Connie, when you watch this later, I have a surprise, but you're gonna have to show up to a meeting for me to tell you about it.
Yes. Anyway, see you after the episode. I want to hear your thoughts about what you were going to say right after.
All right, sounds good.
See you.
All right.
That was a deep episode, wasn't it?
I had forgotten about that moment with Worf when they were playing darts. But yeah. But yeah, what I was saying before was I feel like in future episodes that O'Brien really was throwing himself into his work. And remember, he was still on medical leave until the counselor said that he was good to come back. So I think that probably helped him a lot too, was talking with a counselor.
Mm-hmm. And you know, when people have these types of situations, whatever it may be, counselors always help. And it's not just going to one counselor and you're okay, because one counselor may not be a good fit. You may have to go to multiple counselors for multiple issues. Because personally, like, and I'll admit this freely, I went to several counselors before I got my head on straight. And that's perfectly acceptable. I even had to take emotional resilience courses before I got to a point where I could have my head on straight to face the world and face people.
I mean,
it's
you
not bad.
gotta do what you need to do. You know, I mean, we need each other.
Yeah.
There is a part of each one of us. Humans are social creatures, and we need that interaction. We need each other just to survive, really. But you know, when Cisco called O'Brien into his office and he told him, you know, you're relieved of duty, you're going to daily sessions. He knew from experience that O'Brien was going to balk at that, so he had to make it an order. I mean, he had to, but you know that he did not want to do that, because as soon as those doors closed, the look on his face, that was clearly a very difficult thing that he had to do, that he knew he had to, but you could tell he didn't want to. So you could see like the mixed emotions in his face, even, and his body language, that he was struggling with this. I care about my officer. I care about what happens to him. I want what's best for him. I want him to do what's best. And he's also my friend, and I don't want to hurt him. And I don't want to make it an order, but this stubborn Irishman is not going to go to this counseling unless I, you know, bring the hammer down. And so he had to, but you could see all of it on his face. And that was a powerful moment too. And then the very end, when Ishard left, that was a moment because he realized that he was pulling him back because of the guilt of, because even though he didn't really kill a person, in his mind that memory is there because, and that's what he told Julian, that it wouldn't have mattered if it was you. And that's why he was yelling at Julian, and why they had that fight, because in his mind, he had to protect Julian from himself.
Do you think Cisco was hard on O'Brien because Cisco himself probably really never got the opportunity to get the help he needed from his own trauma, because Starfleet was recovering from the devastation left behind after the Borg attack?
No,
Because here's the thing, like,
so.
of course his wife died and everybody's evacuated, but so many ships and so many officers were lost after the Borg attack that there probably was really no time to grieve. They had to get right back to work.
I mean, I think up until that point, we didn't see the struggle that Cisco went through, but it was certainly implied, and some remnants of that were shown in the emissary. When he is in the wormhole and he is in the temple talking to the prophets, there is that moment where you see the pain that he has lived, and as it kind of melts away, as it were, where he comes to the realization mentally, emotionally, I haven't left that ship. I'm still there. Jennifer just died. And physically he had to move and take care of this child of his, but emotionally he was still there, because that was such a traumatic thing. But
so maybe he did for O'Brien what he really couldn't do for himself. He's like, I have the authority to help O'Brien because I had such trouble helping myself.
right, he saw the pain, and while he didn't understand because it's a different situation, he did want, I mean, it was written all over his face, he wanted to help O'Brien in some way, and the only way that he could help him, I mean, Cisco's not a counselor, he could not do that, but the only way that he could help him was, hey, the work can wait. You need help. Turbo lifts can be fixed by somebody on your staff, but you need this counseling, you need this help. So,
but trauma is trauma, and those who go through trauma can always, share resources they have used to help to get themselves through the pain of trauma, and hope that people will want to grab onto those resources. Like, the article I had republished through Trek Sphere, Star Trek teaches us that we must not forget to care. When I offered that to Trek Sphere, they liked it and they said, can you research some helplines for us? And they attached those helplines that I researched, and they have it in a little link called You Are Not Alone. And those are resources I offer to readers who are in need of help. And I offer them in hopes, and they offer them in hopes that those are in need of help can use those to get the help that they need for whatever traumas they go through.
But I truly believe that those who have been through traumatic experiences have a unique ability to reach out to other people who have traumatic experiences. And it's almost like this link that when you meet this person, there's this connection already there. I've experienced that quite a few times in my life where I've met somebody, and in talking and in building a friendship, you learn about these traumas that the other person has. And I really think that that's a way of connecting with humanity on a level that only somebody who has been through something can understand. My sister lost a baby. He was born. I can't say the name of the disease because it's a $1 million word, but basically his organs were on the outside of his body.
Oh,
And
wow.
so he had like emergency surgery and everything, but they said that he wouldn't even be born, but he was, and he lived for 3 months. Um, he was a fighter, let me tell you. But in that trauma that they experienced as a family, and in that trauma that they experienced with the nurses at the hospital, I mean, they see these babies, and you can't help but fall in love with these poor babies that are going through things and their families. And through that trauma, they built connections with other people. And man, I wouldn't wish that on anybody, but they do have that connection to help each other. The moms that were all in the NICU together, and the dads that were in there, they bonded over their sick children, and they formed friendships. And I'm sure they would rather have their child than the friendship, but they do have that connection. And I think that helps because this world is far from perfect. Things happen, trauma happens, pain happens,
It does.
bad things just happen. I mean, we just had a really bad storm here, and there was a lot of damage. People lost their homes. And
But
and
like people who go through similar types of trauma, that's like, trauma has different types of trauma, and those who go through similar types, they all gravitate and they all tend to, learn from each other and heal with each other. And hopefully they find healing.
absolutely, absolutely. Well, I think it
Some
helps.
don't.
I think holding it all into yourself i- is you just dwell on it, and it grows, and it gnaws, and it festers until it becomes such a harder thing to deal with. But sharing it with someone, especially someone who can connect with your story and understand,
Like
being
we,
able to have something in common with it, that the other person understands. It's easier for me to hear this person's story because I know they understand mine.
Mhm.
Does that make sense? So I think connecting with someone like that, on that level like that, it's easier for me to share my story with someone I know has gone through something similar because I have the feeling that they're going to understand. It's hard for me to share parts of my story with someone who seems to never have a care, or has never had a loss, or has never been through whatever the thing is that I'm trying to talk about. Because I've shared in the past with people who have no understanding of what I'm saying, and it's hurtful because most of the time they just don't know how to respond. But if they don't know how to respond, if they're indifferent, then that ends up hurting you when you're trying to share and make a connection. And so that's one of the reasons why people don't share, is because they've tried to share with the wrong people in the past, and then they got hurt.
Mhm.
So I think it's good. You know, you see Worf playing darts. Now Worf does not play darts. Worf does not like darts.
But O'Brien is his friend, and
You
he
know,
wants to be there for his friend.
he put himself in an uncomfortable position for O'Brien. And I think that says a lot. I think it says a lot about both O'Brien and Worf. Because for O'Brien to be the type of a person that Worf, of all people, who never really felt close to a lot of people, but he felt the need to reach out. And Julian had discussions with everyone. Julian met with everyone and said, hey, this is what's going on. We need to be here in whatever form we can be here. So Worf asked him to play darts because despite the way that he talked at times, he admired O'Brien a lot. And we see that later as the series goes on. We see some of Worf's admiration for the chief's abilities, for his work ethic. So I think it really speaks to the kind of man that each of them really were. But they reached out. Dax reached out. She wanted, of course, O'Brien snapped at her, but she reached out. And I think it's kind of funny because we had just talked about, I think it
Well,
was
here's
here.
the thing quickly, like O'Brien was the first to reach out to Worf when Worf came to Deep Space Nine back in the Way of the Warrior, tried to make him feel welcome because they served on the Enterprise together.
Well, they did. They had that connection. And then, Worf did deliver Molly.
Yes. Yeah.
Which I love that episode. I love that episode so much because
You may now give birth.
because Keiko would have killed him. I mean, the look of murder on her face. What do you think I've been doing?
We should watch that sometime.
I mean, that just, man. But the relationship between Julian and Miles, and I think it was on here that we were talking about that. It might have been in another group because I've been doing a lot of that lately. But O'Brien was very annoyed with Julian from the start, and Julian did run his mouth too much. He did talk. He was just so excited to be on the frontier and so excited. And this is what he went to school for. This is what he worked for and trained for. He was living that best life. He was ready for the adventure. And O'Brien is this experienced veteran and military man and Starfleet officer and family man. Yes, but he had his reasons, and he had lived through all of this trauma already, because at that point he had already been through Celtis, and he had already been through those attacks. He'd already seen all of that trauma. He'd already experienced it. And here comes Julian, this bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, kid basically coming in there and just did it, just bouncing off the walls with all of his energy and his enthusiasm, and he did, it's like he didn't understand why the veteran people weren't just as excited as he was, which was great. I mean, it was so smart because to start them out at these different levels like they were, because that's real life. I mean, you come with a group of people, they're not all on the same level, but having that enthusiasm and that go get 'em attitude, but just the way that they built their relationship was, by that point, season 4, we're a little more than halfway through the series, and by now, they're thick as thieves. Could you leave the lid on? It'll be a few minutes. Thanks.
I believe they started to become friends in an episode called The Storyteller.
Yes, Storyteller definitely was a big part of
They
that,
had
I
a
think.
defining conversation in a shuttle, and I wrote about it. You should read it.
See, you need to make like a group or something with all of your stuff in one place. Like,
Oh, it's in there. I made an essay list.
oh, you did? Well, see, I
I
must have seen it.
did.
Where's that?
But
Is that on
anyway,
your page?
it's on the group page.
On the group page. Okay. Well, look.
Yeah. But
But
anyway,
I think
yeah.
you're right because, oh,
But the friendship works both ways. When Julian was outed as an augment, O'Brien was like one of the first to be like, oh, there's nothing different or wrong about this. It's like, you're still my friend. I'm still going to treat you normally. And guess what? You've been throwing to me at darts. I'm literally going to make you stand back here now.
that was brilliant. That was awesome.
And
But
but when Miles was literally, suffering, Julian could recognize it. And so he did what he could as a friend and also as a physician. And it angered Miles, yes, but Miles wasn't doing himself any favors by holding his trauma in.
well, Miles, we get flashbacks, we get stories, we get stuff, so we can piece together a lot of his backstory. And we know that with the Cardassian War, we know he saw a lot of trauma, especially like that was an especially difficult time. But we have these memories of him having been through so much. And Julian hadn't been through anything. I mean, like that. You had mentioned, and we've talked about before, that perhaps Julian was on the spectrum.
I think he was.
And I think you're right. I do totally agree with that. But realistically speaking, to Julian, that was not a trauma because he didn't understand what was going on with that. Then the genetic engineering, which, luckily his procedure went well.
Yeah.
Because, we saw firsthand that it didn't go so well for others. But I think in O'Brien's mind, he's looking at a child with no experience, no anything. But then they got thrown in the trenches together. They fought side by side. They faced all sorts of problems together and had to work them out together. They had no choice. And I think that really did pull them together. It really did connect them. And, you see that solidified in some of the episodes where they are in the trenches. You see that in some of the episodes where it's a more fun episode, like Take Me Out to the Hollow Suite.
And in
Um,
this, especially, like, you see their friendship, and you also see the line between professional and friendship blurred when Julian's able to save Miles from himself.
but you see you see that natural, the ribbing and the teasing and the joking and the messing with each other. You see the arguing, you see the drinking, you see the over having dinner with the family. You see that. And sorry, thought I was gonna sneeze. But you see that we really got to watch that friendship grow, and that's one of the things that I love about Deep Space Nine is you really saw those relationships build, on the Enterprise, both Kirk's Enterprise and Picard's Enterprise. We didn't really see a lot of the individual friendships grow. We saw the three main characters together. We saw Spock learn to tolerate and finally, I think, grow to love Bones. You saw Bones loving Spock, but not wanting anybody to know it. You saw that, you saw that relationship, but the other crew members and the other relationships, we really didn't get to explore into that. On the Enterprise, we saw a little bit more with Picard's Enterprise of the relationships with Riker and Geordi and Dr. Crusher and Dr. Crusher and Troy having their gymnastics together. They did, they go hang out in 10 Forward together. They had their poker nights. They did go to the Hollow Suite together. We saw more, but we still didn't see the relationship grow like we did on Deep Space Nine. We saw relationships grow from Odo and Kira were dead set against Cisco. I mean, he came on, they already hated him before they met him. And then we watched that grow into, by the time we get up into the later seasons, there was a genuine care, there was a genuine love for each other. And but it wasn't just them, we see this relationship, we see Dax and Kira and their relationship, and they're teasing each other and the occasional fight. We see all of these relationships that we didn't really get to see in the others. And I think Roddenberry would be very pleased with the fact that he was always about looking to the future. He was always about the humanitarian side, but he wanted to see a future where friendships were formed with different races. And we saw, you know, with the original series, he was not allowed to do a whole lot of those interpersonal relationships with aliens because the networks didn't think people wanted to see it. And it was a constant fight with the network to get every little thing that he did get. So I think he would be very pleased to see any shot of the promenade and you'd see 6 different species at least, You'd see people at Quarks and around the Dabo table or at a table sitting or at the Replimat, and you've got 2 or 3 different species all sitting at the table, having conversations, laughing, joking, getting along. I think that was a big part for him. He wanted to show that, hey, we can go out there and we can learn. That was the whole explore and seek out new life and new civilizations. It was so that we could learn from them. We wanted to learn about their civilization, learn about the way they do things and the why of how they do things. And I think we saw a lot of that in Deep Space Nine.
Mhm.
So, Voyager went back to the ship thing, and we still saw a lot of different species with them being so far from home. But I think Deep Space Nine really got that relationship thing down. And I've been starting back on Enterprise, and we do see, because I've jumped around a little bit too with watching with you guys too, and discussions online. Um, but you see the distrust from the very first episode and how that kind of grows as the crew members grow into a cohesive group.
Yeah.
And
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 those
I think
relationships make it easier for, those who experience the trauma in this series, the relationships make it easier for people to recover from the traumas they face. And that always helps to have people you can lean on, people you can love and trust, and kind of, if that makes sense. I don't know if it does.
it totally does, and I totally agree, because we do need that. And like I said, we're very social creatures, and we need that interaction. We need each other. And I mean, it's like this, because with it being on Saturday, for me anyway, it makes it easier for me to come on here. Of course, I like to see the more people, the better. But
Yes.
it gives me that interaction, because for my Shabbat service, I'm online. It's online. I'm watching it, but it's like watching a TV show. There's not a lot of interaction there. You know, you don't have that conversation with people. If you go walk into the synagogue, then you are greeting people, you're hugging people, you're shaking hands, you're talking, you're seeing their faces. There's something to be said for the seeing faces, the talking, hearing each other's voices. I think that we need that. And I think that that's a lot of the past 2 years of people being so depressed, and so many people being depressed. We haven't had even this enough. Nothing beats the in person, but just even on the Zoom meetings and stuff, this interaction, I think it helps a lot with the depression. I really do. And
That's good. Not
I,
just
I
yours and mine as well. I think we all have a little bit of it because COVID does that.
it does, but I think we can combat that in certain ways. And meeting together and taking the time to meet together and chat, especially about something that we feel compassionately about. And Star Trek, for some of us, was the thing that got us through our childhood. I mean, I was not, because I was homeschooled, I was bullied when I was in public school. But, my mom pulled me out. I was homeschooled from that point on. And so I didn't really experience a lot of bullying. Um, because it was my siblings. I mean, we did the sibling thing, fighting and whatever, but it's not the same as what a lot of kids go through in school, being bullied. But I know people who Star Trek got them through because they knew at the end of the day when they got home, there was a Star Trek episode, and they got home and they got to escape into this wonderful world where that sort of thing just didn't happen. And they got to escape into this wonderful world of technology that we, now we have a lot of the things that came from Star Trek. We have iPads and video conferencing, and we have a lot of things that were mentioned in Star Trek, but those were dreams back then. And it really helped so many people with the bullying, and it helped so many of us that were loners, or didn't really know how to reach out in a socially acceptable way, because a lot of my friends that are in Star Trek clubs or just enjoy watching the shows are socially awkward in a group setting, especially. And Star Trek helps with that, or at least has helped them with that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
You're making me think of a quote that was said in past tense, part 1, and I'm not sure you were with us at this point. It was said by Dr. Bashir when they were walking in him and Cisco were walking in the sanctuary district, and I was thinking about how social interaction is necessary and how we need to care about each other. Causing people to suffer because you hate them is terrible. But causing people to suffer because you have forgotten how to care, that's really hard to understand. And that really just makes me think about a quote I came up with for this essay that I wrote on Shakespeare, and I've already mentioned. Truly, we must not forget to care, even though it may be hard for us to care. Like, we are social creatures,
In past tense, when they're sitting there waiting in the giant waiting room, and Julian says, how did this happen? Which of course is mirrored at the end of the part 2 of the episode, when one of the guards asks, how did we let this happen? But it is a thinking moment to, well, we let this happen because we're letting things divide us instead of bring us together, because we're separating ourselves into these groups, and many groups are guilty of that.
Mm-hmm.
Pulling themselves apart because it's easier than dealing with being ridiculed, questioned, or being afraid of being left out of something. It's easier to pull ourselves into a group that's just us. And so some are ostracized, but some are just pulling themselves into this group. And the more we pull or allow everybody to pull themselves into these separate groups, easier we are to conquer, the easier we are to be shoved into a corner, pushed into a ghetto, pushed into this area, sanctuary district. And
we are letting this happen. We are letting this happen. We are letting indifference reign. We are letting trauma go unresolved. We are ignoring trauma. We are failing to help those who suffer from trauma, whether it be stuff they cause themselves or whether it be caused unto them. We are letting indifference happen. We are letting trauma remain unresolved when we have the power to be of help, whether it be actually directing them to resources, giving them resources, or just simply listening and letting them know somebody cares. And this is crap. We are capable of being so much more of a help than we are actually willing ourselves to be. It's crap. We have so much more power to give care and be care, but we're just not letting ourselves care because we're lazy. We're indifferent. We think it doesn't affect us, but everything affects us indirectly or directly.
Well, I think
Or we're scared of getting involved. That's what it is. We're lazy or we're scared.
there is that but the other thing is not knowing how.
Right. Or we're just
Not
we're
knowing how.
ignorant.
Exactly. And I think a big thing is we have to learn how to say, you know, I don't understand the exact situation you're going through, but I want to let you know I'm here for you in whatever way I can be here for you. Saying it's not enough, you have to show it, because people are hesitant to reach out, even if somebody says, if you need anything, call me. If you need anything, ask. Everybody says that. A lot of people don't mean that. So instead of doing that, and I've kind of learned this as I've grown older and as I've been, but you don't say if you need anything. You say, I'm going to bring over a couple of meals, one for you to have tonight, one for you to have later in the week. What would you like? Are there any dietary restrictions? Is there anything? But I'm going to bring you food. You tell me when I can bring it. Or
what can I do for you? Is there something I would or you
is
would
there a
like me to do?
specific thing I can do? Can I come and help you clean the house? Would you rather me come and help clean the house? Or would you rather me take your kids to the park for a couple hours so you can do it? Would you rather me, and I like the would you rather questions, because if you just say, what can I do? They have a hard time coming up with something. But if you give them a choice, would you rather me take the kids out and get them some ice cream? Or would you rather me stay home and do your laundry or help you with the laundry?
Right. Because everyone
Would
has
you
a need.
rather, because those needs are very real, and
Yeah.
depending on what situation they're going through and everything. But I find that it works better to say, or my brother just, their grass needs to be mowed. Whatever's going on in their family, just go mow the grass. I mean, that's one you can do when they're not even home. But there's things that you can reach out to, but people are very hesitant to ask for help.
Mhm.
I know I am. I have a very hard time with that. But it is a lot easier, on both parties if you can do, hey, but you have to put some thought into it. Okay, this is a family, a friend of mine, they had 3 funerals in less than 3 weeks. One of them was for her sister, and she was just devastated. I mean, she was having she's got some health problems too. She's just devastated. She's having trouble. Her youngest son is autistic and struggling with potty training. He's scared, and but you know how it is. Different, there's different levels of autism, and he's in a point where he's just scared of everything. So, or at least he was at that point. And so, you know what? I had groceries delivered because she could not get up and get herself dressed and get to the grocery store. And her husband was working full time and trying to work as much extra as he could for the family, but he was going through the same trauma. I mean, it's the same family. But that's a way to help. It's not intrusive, but it's very helpful because, need food now.
Like
You know,
everyone has a need, but it's like they're scared to ask because those who want to offer help may judge them for asking for too much or asking for something inconvenient. Many people who say they want to help, like have a set amount of standards, or they want to help in a specific way only to make themselves look good. Those who truly want to help don't care if it's convenient, or don't care what they have to do, or don't care even if it's a messy job. It's like you should help just because you want to help, not to look good or for the sake of
no,
convenience or whatever.
I think it's the typical response. If you need anything, call me. But I think there's a large percentage of people who don't expect to be called on.
You should
They
want
don't
to help whether
expect.
or not you're called on.
Well, I get that. And that's what I'm saying is we should be reaching out with the help and not just lip service. We should be reaching out with the help. It drives my oldest son bonkers because when I go to the grocery store, most of the time I'm not in a huge hurry. That's my time to check out new stuff on the shelves and and chat with people. Um, but that's time that I take for myself. You know, that's me time.
Mm-hmm.
But it never fails. You see somebody standing in the aisle that's confused. One time this girl she was young teenager. She's staring at the cake mixes. It was her job to bake a cake for some event. I don't remember. And she was overwhelmed with the choices. She thought she'd go in there and grab a cake mix, and she gets in there and gets immediately overwhelmed by so many choices, so many frostings, so many flavors, so many decorations. And I get it. I do. A lot of times I run into people who just they don't normally shop. They don't know where anything is. They don't know, how to maneuver the store. And I ended up sitting there and chatting with her for probably 10-15 minutes. Which is not long out of my day. But I helped her figure out, the type of event, the favorite flavors of the person she was baking the cake for, and give her some ideas to work with. But it made her day, and it made my day too, just taking that moment to notice. That's the big thing, is we don't notice that another person is having difficulty making a decision because we zoom by them so fast. Normally we're rushing past them. You're in my way. You're taking up too much space looking at those cake mixes. Get what you want, get out of my way. Normally we're just about going in there and getting it. We need to slow down and notice that somebody's having a problem. Notice that there's an older person who's upset because she wants to get this big container of something and she can't get it into her cart. And she's just standing there staring at it instead of going and asking for help, whether it's because she has some mental reason why, but she's just staring at it.
You know what?
And
I think people are too busy trying to conform to ever-changing social standards and ever-changing standards of the world, that they're too busy to notice or to care that people who struggle to conform and people who simply struggle, they're too busy to notice people struggling, and they get angry at people who struggle. How dare you slow our pace? How dare you can't live up to expectations? Get the hell out of the way and just stop existing, stop being in the way, go away and stop bothering us, stop asking for help and just go live in your little cocoons and stop trying to be in a world where you don't belong.
and it's funny that you worded it like that,
And
because
God, that sounded terrible. I'm sorry.
No, because that exact wording, just a couple of days ago, I heard a teacher use,
Uh-oh.
and it was not her. She was telling the story of another teacher, and that teacher had said some very horrible things along those lines to a student who needed additional help. The teacher had not even read the IEP. The teacher had not done their part. The teacher made a judgment call on a student that they were not familiar with. And the teacher that was telling the story was like, it was like she was saying, get out of the way. I have other students who are more important than you that I need to teach. You are not worth my time. You're not worth my effort. Get out of the way and let me help these other kids instead. And so, yeah, that really struck me because that is a very common thing, and I know a lot of teachers, and in those conversations, and and I follow a teacher on Facebook who posts on a regular basis about these students that need extra help, or students that have lived through trauma, or students who have parents in the military, and right now they're experiencing this, not knowing, because they have a parent that not only is gone but they don't know where, because the military is not telling families where people are going, probably to protect the ones that are working in the Ukraine. So you have these kids that have no idea where one of their parents is. And they're dealing with this on top of things in school, bullies, the school lessons themselves, the COVID concerns. I mean, there's so much going on for these kids. And it's interesting to watch them discuss real life, what happens in their classrooms. And man, kids today, I feel like, go through a lot more trauma than we did, at least in my home, in my community.
Mm.
Like, they have more things to face than, because there's new issues popping up all the time, but we didn't worry about somebody shooting up the house, but even when I was in public school, nobody thought of anybody coming into the school and shooting it up. It wasn't a thought. It wasn't on no one's radar. It was not a thought. Drugs in our, little small town were not a thought. None of these things were on our radar.
You were
And I think
fortunate.
yes, I think so. I mean, Oklahoma does stay behind some of the other states a good bit.
No offense, but you were very fortunate. The child of a very active alcoholic. You were very fortunate.
Yeah, I mean, we saw some things, but like my uncle that was an alcoholic, my parents worked very hard, especially when we were young, to keep us away from knowing what was happening. I mean, we did not realize, we did not know that that's what was happening. So yeah, we were very fortunate in that. But I think kids today, it's everywhere. Like, there is nowhere. I feel like the number of safe places is like next to zero. There are no safe places.
And kids are not being taught how to care about one another. Kids are being taught that different is bad. Kids are being taught that diversity is bad.
Exactly.
And it's so troubling. Like, and there's so much violence because kids are bullied and they grow up with feeling that they have no worth, and they grow up with these angry feelings and they take it out on other people instead of being allowed to get help. The government doesn't give enough funding so that kids can get the help they need for the issues that are caused by bullying. It's like, what the
But
hell?
I think that we even leaving the government out of it, I think that we can do a lot on our own if we just step up and do it, because we really need to really fight the us versus them. And there is a lot of us versus them everywhere you look. I mean, even in our Star Trek groups, there is us versus them. There is old Trek versus new Trek.
That's true.
There is, I mean, and the fights can get pretty. I mean, I've been attacked for just saying that I hadn't watched an episode because I wasn't into it. I have worked very hard. I do not say that it's not Trek. I do not say any of those things. Whatever I might think in my head, I don't put out there. But I've still been attacked for saying, well, I haven't seen it. When, somebody will post a question, or I'll say, well, I haven't seen that. I'm just not into that.
That's
Not
true.
my cup of tea or whatever. And they'll attack you for that. Oh, that means you think, and I hate to be judged off of for somebody telling me what I think based off of that. I didn't say how I think. I just said that I hadn't watched it, it's not my thing. But there are no real safe places because every
No.
group I'm seeing this. I mean, even my like recipe groups and stuff.
And
You can see some
indifference.
bickering.
Indifference is a very big problem in Star Trek group. Every Star Trek group, hopefully except ours. And in every group, it's like people just find something wrong with the way somebody else presents themselves and freezes them out to the point where they don't want to be there, or just plain kicks them out because of the way they present themselves. Somebody's uncomfortable or something else. And it's just.
But life is uncomfortable. I mean, people have put theories and ideas and opinions out there that some of them have made me feel uncomfortable. But you know what? They're entitled to their opinion. And when I don't like something, I scroll past it. It's a real easy thing to do. It really live and let live. Or my grandma used to say, let sleeping dogs lie.
Like, I admit it, Teresa, I created this space, this beautiful little Star Trek space, because, a lot of other virtual spaces either told me I wasn't welcome or made me feel unwelcome by freezing me out and ostracizing me. And you know what? There was a time I felt so depressed and mentally just out of it that I really couldn't feel anything for a while. And I was just having panic attacks and feeling alone like Miles did, not to the extreme that he did, but I just felt so very alone and imprisoned within myself mentally that I didn't want to feel that way. I didn't want others to feel that way. So I made this safe space, hopefully, with the hope that others could have a safe space to belong. I know it's small. I know not many people attend, but that's the hope that I made this safe space for.
But I think growing very slowly is a good thing, and getting those people who do feel ostracized in the other groups, because like we found out just a couple of times ago that some people are looking for a fight, and some people are just wanting to start something, and that's unfortunate. But we do want to protect this space, so Having people come in, when any group that you form is always a risk because you don't know who you're allowing in. But allowing people in is how you grow and learn from each other. And we have to accept people for who they are because we want to be accepted for who we are. So I think this I think is really great. I think it's going really well.
I thank you
Um
for that. I admit, in the early days of the group before I met you and the people who show up to the meetings, it didn't go well. I was torn down a lot for the way I organized things and the way I led, called terrible names, terrible things. I almost gave up, but I decided after those who thought that the group was nothing worth anything staying around for, I decided to carry on and rebuild. And I'm glad I carried on.
you know what? This is what I would like to do. I would like to say as soon as I kick cancer's butt and it's in remission, I want to meet you guys. I want us to do something where we can meet and I really want us to get to, do something Star Trek. They don't have the Star Trek experience in Las Vegas anymore, do they?
No, but there always is Seattle in 2023.
Hey,
Maybe we should talk to Star Trek missions.
yeah, I like it. I do. So that would be so awesome.
I would like to go to that actually because my mother was born in Washington.
See, you and your mom could go and like share a hotel room or something.
Oh, she won't go. She won't leave her husband for that long, but she might if I beg her and maybe promise her maybe promise to pay for a photo with her with Michael Dorn. She's obsessed with Michael Dorn.
Me too. Me too. Me too. Um, no, see, you do mother-daughter bonding. You need this. It's for both of you. Get away and bond. Totally need this.
Oh, she might. I don't know. I can't speak for her on that.
See, what you do is you start now, working up to it. It'd be so nice if we could get away for a few days, just us.
I'll have to
It'd be
talk to
so
her.
great.
That's a year away.
I know, but you got to lay the hints down now.
She'll be 70 by then.
Hey, birthday blowout for your mom.
She's 70 in August, so I don't know. We'll see. I will ask.
Hey, my Aunt Kim used to live there. I'm sure she could tell us of a good baker. We can get a birthday cake. We'll make it a club meeting, birthday party, Star Trek meet Michael Dorn extravaganza.
Oh, if she got to meet Michael Dorn in person, I think she'd be very happy.
I would love to meet him so
She's
much.
Yeah, she'd be very happy, and she's been through so much in her life. She would just enjoy that so much.
See, that's what I'm saying. Start laying the hints down now. What you do, the first hint that you got to lay down is we don't spend enough time together. I miss spending time together. I want to spend more time with you. And then you keep building that up for about 3 months. And then you start, wouldn't it be nice if we could get a little getaway, just a couple of days, just us? just us. And you build that up for about 3 months.
She hates surprises.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You build it up. So then for the next 3 months, you do things, it'd be great if you could meet some of my friends.
Well, she's a member of this club. Did you not know that?
I didn't, but
She
I guess
is.
I haven't seen her.
Her name's Martha.
Well, Martha needs to get in those meetings.
Well, she's usually busy, but I will invite her so you can meet her.
Well, I have a surprise for her, so she needs to show up to the meeting so I can meet her.
I'll try and get her in one.
So yeah, when the stickers get here, I'm gonna mail them out, but I'm gonna mail you the extras, so I don't know how many extras there are. She said she got, when she was doing like the cutting them out and stuff, there were a few extras and she was gonna send them. So
Awesome.
you'll have those. So
Yeah.
you could always do like a trivia question. Whoever gets the right answer gets a sticker, or whoever participates in the most meetings or whatever. But anyway, or just new members start attending and you want to send it to them, you can. So any
Yeah.
of those ways works. I'm going to send one to my youngest son because he wants one. I showed him the sticker. He's
Awesome.
talking to me again, which is good.
That's
He's
great.
actually,
Like if you're seriously wanting a meetup in Seattle, like that's something everybody has to plan.
oh yeah, but we got a year to plan it, right?
Yeah.
Do you know what month it's in?
May.
May? See, we have right at a year. Like, we should, besides, I know for me, I got to put some money aside because, plane tickets and food and stuff and hotels and yeah.
Yeah,
We,
but you do look tired, you poor thing. You look tired.
well, it's hard to sleep here and
Yeah.
they're in and out all night long. They have, well, even while we've been on here, the nurse came in twice, so they're
Yeah.
in the whole time.
So should we wrap this up then?
Yeah, I guess, but
All right. Well, some parting advice for those who watch and for you. Remember to care for others and remember to care for yourself. Don't leave people with their traumas. And don't let indifference reign, because indifference is ugly and it doesn't deserve to reign. Don't forget to care, even though it may be hard to care. Love others, and most of all, love yourself.
said it perfectly.
And yeah, if you're serious about wanting, and if you want to plan something for Read Pop 2023, please be in touch.
Yeah, I think we totally need to do that. We need to talk about it with everybody else, but I think we totally need to.
And this will be on the recording, so please send me your ideas. We shall have a chat.
Yes.
So that sounds
Like
intriguing.
it.
Washington. COVID should
It
be a
gives
lot
me
better by then.
something. Gives me something to work for. So
Okay. Well, you got to also focus on beating your cancer so you can join us.
I know that's what I'm saying. It gives me something to focus on, so I can.
Yes. Party,
I need to. Of course, I said I was never gonna fly again after the last incident in an airport, but that's okay. I
oh, I
can do
hope
it
I'm
for
worth
this.
it.
I think it's totally worth it to go. So yeah,
All right. Well,
maybe
I'm
by
gonna
then
let
my
you go
son and
now.
I will be talking again, and he'll come with me. That would be great. So
Oh, party, party, party.
I know, right? Totally. All right. Well, you have a good night.
Yes, go have a nap. Kisses, love you, be good.
All right. You too.
Thank you all for coming to this meeting. Live long and prosper.